In a recent video, I mentioned that I'd handed in my notice at work and that the future was uncertain. Then I went all mysterious and didn't give any more details beyond a vague assertion that I would come back and share any solid plans I made as I made them. Then I got distracted by eggs, which was fun. But I thought I'd come back now, despite not really having any solid plans still, and at least share my reasons behind making the decision and where I'm trying to get to, if not exactly how I'm going to get there. And although I'll be framing this one in the context of a bike ride on a beautiful sunny Saturday morning, it's not really about biking or camping or any of the things that I pretend this channel is about. It's just going to be me talking about some semi-personal aspects of my life, I suppose. So if you're only here for the gear reviews and the witty trail bants, then you can probably skip this one. I won't be offended. The rest of you, buckle up. This might run long. This all sort of orbits around, but isn't really related to work. Now, what I do for a living, or at least for the next couple of weeks, is write code. JavaScript specifically, for those of you interested in such details. And it's something that I've done in one flavour or another for 20 years. It's something that I quite enjoy. It's something that I'm quite good at. And it's something that has enabled me to live the lifestyle I've chosen to live over the last decade or so. In my surprisingly popular Biggest Danger of Bikepacking video, which I shall share above and below, go check it out if you haven't already. It is a good one and I really need the views at the moment. In there I talk a bit about my accidental career and how that led me back into cycling as an adult and then on to my first ever multi-day ride, and how that spurred me on in the decision to go freelance so that I could do more multi-day rides. I talked a little bit about how that reflected on real life, in inverted commas, and how finally when COVID hit, I sought shelter once again beneath the spreading fronds of a permanent position. And so to today, to real life again. That video was intended to be a frank and honest examination of some of my life choices up to that point, centered around cycling. And I think it came out pretty well, really. But I didn't talk about every aspect of my life because at the time it didn't seem pertinent to what I was talking about. One of the things that I didn't talk about was the fact that in those first couple of years that I was working and cycling, I met a beautiful Swedish girl called Louise. It was one of those meetings that I think within about 2 hours of first striking up conversation, we knew that we were onto a pretty good thing, and that there were a lot of great adventures lined up in our shared future. And there really were, big and small. I mean, there still are. Plenty more to come. She was living in Prague at the time, and sometimes Sweden, England for a little while. And I was working almost exclusively for an incredibly understanding employer who would let me go off cycling when I wanted to, and who, when I was working, didn't really care where I was working from. And so I'd go off and set up wherever Louise was, and if I was cycling or she was travelling, we'd mesh our schedules and make sure we crossed paths somewhere along the way. It was good times. And this was all pre-Brexit, before all that hard-won sovereignty made lifestyles like that completely impossible. Thanks, Brexit. In the years that have gone by since we first met, we haven't always been a couple in the traditional sense. Now, there have been other things, other people. We've each lived our own lives on our own tracks. But those other things have always come and gone. Me and Louise, we always kept in touch. And despite being separated by multiple countries, we always ended up back together again on some project, some adventure or other. In all that time, the biggest event of import, I suppose, was the fact that Louise now has a little girl. I shall find some suitably illustrative picture of them both to put up on screen now. Louise is the tall one, and the little one is Minna. Minna of the infinite energy and the unquenchable curiosity. She does not stop. She calls me Osha, and I absolutely love her to bits. She's a fantastic little person. And I just always assumed that Louise and I would end up together in Sweden in the end. And I think because it seemed like so obviously the right outcome, and because it was so easy to just nip back and forwards in those days, I also assumed that it would just kind of happen without any real effort or input. And so of course it didn't. It always seemed like something that would be good to do after this thing or that thing, and we talked about it, and maybe we would look into it more next summer. And the years went by, and then Brexit happened, and then COVID happened, and then I wasn't freelancing anymore. And suddenly, it's not easy. And maybe because the years have gone by, maybe because it's not easy, I found myself looking back with a little tinge of regret that I never just bit the bullet, got off my arse and went to Sweden when I could have done. When it would have been so easy just to go and try it. And so I went to my employer and I asked them, would it be possible for me to keep this job and move to Sweden? And fairly unsurprisingly, I guess, they said, no, absolutely not. Don't be ridiculous. And I wrangled and negotiated as best I could, but they weren't wiggling on that at all. So what could I do? What could I do? I found myself at a junction point, two potential futures stretching off into the mists. And at the end of each, old man Jethro, looking back and evaluating the choices that has brought him there. And one of those old men, he looks back on the choice he made to play it safe, stick with the good job, earn the money, top up the bank account, you know, probably move to the country at some point. And him and Louise drifted apart. I think they kept in touch probably, but they drifted apart. And it probably wasn't a bad life. But then there's this other old man Jethro, who looks back at the decision he made to take a little bit of a risk, to sack off the job, to go to Sweden for a bit, and just to try for something less certain, but arguably far more valuable. And I don't know those two old men. Yeah, they live in a different world to me, and they look back on this moment with the benefit of years and hopefully decades of experience that I don't have. But I do know quite a lot of past Jethros, and I know present Jethro really well. And we've all got together and we decided that the safe and the comfortable option is not always the most desirable one. And so I handed in my notice, and in about 2 weeks, as of filming, I'm going to Sweden. And over the coming months, I'm going to spend as much time in Sweden as I can. Thank you, Brexit, again, for making that one incredibly difficult. And the long-term goal is to be in Sweden long-term, I suppose. And that's that, you know, that's where we're at. If it all sounds complex and nebulous, then that's because it is complex and nebulous. But it's also exciting. It's exciting to be cut suddenly adrift, to be heading off into the unknown on an adventure. And it's doubly exciting to be doing that in the firm and comfortable knowledge that I 100% have made a good decision here. You know, it is risky, and however it may end up, I made the right choices for the right reasons. Let the chips fall as they may. Now I know that the best way for me to be in Sweden long term is for me to get a job out there. Find a Swedish employer, do that thing. And I will be trying to do that. You know, I'm going to have a fair bit of free time on my hands, so I'll be up-leveling my existing skills, building out my portfolio, doing some moving and shaking, making contacts in the Swedish job industry market thing, all that kind of stuff. But also, there's this little devil on my shoulder who's whispering to me that this could be the last best chance to really push this channel and see what, if anything, can be made of that. And so I'm going to try and do both. I'm going to try and squeeze in amongst all the other things, making some videos, whittling some spoons, keeping the Ko-fi store a little bit better stocked than it has been the last year or so. Well, that's that. That brings us nicely to the here and the now, and the last point to discuss, which is you, fine viewer, long-suffering audience member. Because despite the whole YouTube channel thing, I'm not one of those people who feels like it's necessary to share all of the details of my life on social media to be validated. Quite the opposite, in fact. But I think that you folk have somewhat earned at least an overview of my plans just by your participation. I mean, I make the videos here, but it is you who make the channel. Not wanting to sound horribly cheesy, but it is your interactions, your comments, your kind words, your support that keeps it skipping along the way it does. You know, the fact that I'm in a position to even be contemplating the notion that this channel might become an actual important part of big life decisions, and might even be something that pays even a tiny proportion of my future bills, is, I mean, it's bonkers really when you think about where this all started a few years ago. So I like to end with a thank you if I remember. I try to do it, and I will this time. You know, I thank you as usual to all my Ko-fi supporters, one-offs, and also these amazing people who do monthly subscription. I don't know what to say. As always, I don't know what to say on that front. It's amazing. But equally, just to all of you, even to those of you who've never seen one of my videos before, who've only watched this one right to the end because my burbling voice in the background is better than the silence. Thank you. Yeah, it matters. To me, it really matters. But beyond the usual thank you, I'm going to end this one with a call to arms and a cheeky potential request for even more than you already all give to me. First couple, these are long shots, I know, but if any of you out there have any contacts in southern Sweden who might be looking to hire a JavaScript developer, Malmö, Lund, Ystad, Simrishamn, that kind of neck of the woods, get in touch. I'm happy to talk shop. Similarly, if any of you have contacts who are experts in the Swedish visa and immigration system, then get in touch, because that's something I'm going to be diving into and probably getting horribly confused by at some point in the near future. Beyond that, just keep doing what you're doing, really. Watch the videos, watch them right to the end, like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the little bell, get notified when I upload. Beyond, if you know anyone who you think might like the channel who hasn't come across it yet, friends, colleagues, whatever, forums that you might frequent, share a link, get some new faces in, let's build the numbers. And beyond, go have a look at the Ko-fi page. Obviously donations and subscriptions are incredibly humbly received, but equally if you want something physical for your money, there are stickers up there now. If you've ever wanted to own a bespoke, hand-whittled, utterly unique Jethro Jessup wooden spoon, then they are going up for sale on the store as quickly as I can whittle them, which isn't that quickly, I'll be honest. So yeah, all of that's there. I'll put a link down below. As I always say, it's not expected, it's just there. And now I'm waffling. I didn't plan the end of this one at all. Just sitting in the woods really on this beautiful Saturday. Don't know what the next video will be. Might be in Sweden, or it might just be some weird egg-based thing again like the last one. We shall see. Hopefully it will be entertaining and informative as usual. For now though, I'll get myself home. Hope your Saturday has been as absolutely splendid as mine has. Thank you again. I'll see you all on the next one. Bye now.